Welcome back. Today I'm going to change the brake pads and rotors on the front of the ZL1. It seems like the previous owner has put some pretty questionable brake pads on them. They're not the original GM pads, and it looks like they're not nearly as efficient as they should be, especially on cold bite. I found that out at the track. I'm trapping at about 135 miles an hour right now at the end of the quarter and having one heck of a time trying to stop. So that's going to be today. I have some new pads and rotors. They're AC Delco pads and rotors. So it's basically factory replacement for this. So there's just a couple of things I have to do. I have to make sure that the brake reservoir isn't too full, so when I compress the calipers, I'm not going to overfill it and wreck the paint on the inside of the fenders. But other than that, it's going to be basically just remove and replace, and then I'm going to be doing a bedding procedure that is recommended to break in the pads and rotors on these ZL1s. Don't mind the super red eyes. I have some pretty bad springtime allergies right now that I'm suffering from, but I'll get over it. So that's going to be on the agenda for today, and have her all ready for the track for this weekend. So let's get after it. Here's the pads and rotors I went with, and these are genuine GM pads. And these are the Brembo rotors that come on the car themselves. This looks like just a coating that they put on top of the rotor. These are a two-piece rotor, really good quality. I talked to a few people that do some drag racing as well as autocross, these 5th gen ZL1s. And most of them say that the drilled and slotted rotors are really just a sales gimmick, and you know, for what I'm doing, unless you're autocrossing in the rain or something like that, then I could see the benefit to a drilled rotor. You know, obviously slotted help degas, but these work. They've just worked from the factory. They're directional finned, and the ZL1 has cooling fins built into the front of the, or cooling ducts built into the front of the car. They work really good. If the previous owner of the car had just replaced the rotors, or sorry, the pads with factory pads, I probably wouldn't have had to do all this. But the rotors, I think, have been turned on this car before. So we're going back to new rotors because they're just at spec. So these are the factory, I believe the compound is a DS 1000 compound. So this is really good for cold bite, and they'll still work as they heat up. They're not a full-on race pad like you would get for autocross, but yeah, pretty decent. Obviously, this discoloration. This is the coating that they put on it for storage or after they're done machining, so that'll come right off. But I'll clean it all up with some brake clean, obviously, before I put the pads in. But you can see my pads have gotten pretty bad, and those rotors they have got more than hot a few times. They haven't started cracking. Oh, they might actually have some cracking, or that might be material. But definitely some hot spots, a little bit of shake when you press the brake through the front wheel. So thinking they probably got some warping too. So I got the car up on the quick jacks. Love those. Works really good for getting the car up in the air pretty quick. So I'll start taking the front tires off and start disassembling. So I've decided to kill two birds with one stone here. This is the speed bleeder that I got from Monster Clutches when I put my triple disc in. This is a speed bleeder for the throw bearing, the slave cylinder, for the throw bearing on the clutch. The brake fluid reservoir is shared with the clutch reservoir on the GM ZL1 Camaros. Not the best thing. It'd be nice if they were separate, but you can get kits to have a separate clutch fluid reservoir. They both take .3 fluid, but I'm going to, instead of opening it up and sucking it out with a syringe and making sure I got lots of room for compressing the calipers. As you can see, it's pretty full. I might as well just flush everything at the same time. So I'm going to hook up the speed bleeder to a little catch can that I got here off of a brake bleeding kit, and take the reservoir down and flush the fluid in the slave cylinder at the same time for the throw-out bearing. Yep, she's ready for some rotors and pads. Some of this is brake material, but they got a lot of hot spots. It's kind of hard to tell through the camera. It actually looks a lot worse in person. So gonna compress the pistons and the calipers and take off the pad retaining bolts and the pin, and then these pins on the backside slide out, and then the pads come out, and then I'll remove the caliper and the caliper mounting bracket. Then I'm going to take out the screw that mounts the hub to the caliper, clean everything up, make sure that I have a nice clean surface to mount the new rotor to. There's a little bit of surface rust on the hub, I'm sure. Clean all that up. I'll support the caliper up with a bungee strap to the strut spring, just to keep the tension off the front brake hoses. So pretty simple. Put the new pads in and do the same on the other side. Put it all together, top up the reservoir, pump up the brakes, and then go for a rip and bed in the new pads. So yeah, pretty simple, really. So here we go. In the GM manual, this is for my 2014 Camaro, volume 1 of 5. Under brakes, front rotor replacement. It gives me the spec. It tells you basically your caliper mounting bolts, clean them up good. Make sure you use Loctite on 2/3 of the thread and torque them up with new caliper bolts. And then the brake rotor screw, you're supposed to torque that up to 89 foot-pounds. Sorry, yeah, 89 inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. That would not last very long. Inch-pounds. So 10 Newton meters. Yeah. So the one thing that they don't tell you when you're reading the replacement procedures is that there is a left and right rotor, and I'll show you that here. They're actually marked two ways. The first one here, you can see it says Brembro right, and on the left you can see it says left. It's because the fins for cooling are directional, and the left one actually has an ID groove, which is another way to tell. So this rotor, if this wears off or it's corroded, if you need to know left to right rotor, the left rotor, so sitting in the car, that's your left hand. So left to right side of the car is always from the driver's seat of the car. So your left hand rotor has an ID groove on it from the factory rotors, and then your right side is smooth. So that's another way. So the way it works is, if this is the left hand side, so I'm going down the road this way, they're not actually scooping air in the forward direction. They're expelling air out, so it's coming out of the rotor and being flung, if you can think of it as it's spinning, it's flinging the air out, and it's not really catching the air, scooping it as much as it's expelling the hot air out of the rotor. So yeah, that's kind of a neat thing on the ZL1, which is the J56 brake option. That's the code from GM. Brakes are all done, and I'm gonna go try to do brake pad bedding procedure. GM has a pretty lengthy bedding procedure in the manual. They want you to do 25 brake
with 1 mile in between doing them. And the first one is medium brake effort, 25 times, going from about 60 miles an hour down to 30 miles an hour, and then driving a mile, then doing it again, doing that 25 times, which is, you know, gonna take a long time and a big, long, empty road to do. And then then they want you to do a heavy brake effort 25 times, which is gonna be 60 miles an hour down to 15 miles an hour, driving a mile in between. Again, trying to find a road you can do this on without brake checking somebody and pissing them off. So what I'm gonna do is kind of a modified version of that. I'm gonna go find a little country road and do a modified, probably about 10 times, go up about 60 miles an hour down to about 15 miles an hour, do that about 5-6 times and give it some time in between brake applications so that I can let them cool down. And then once that's done, then you got to drive for at least 10-15 minutes without touching the brakes and just let everything cool down. So I'm gonna go find a backcountry road and try it out. Okay, start doing some brake bedding. I'm just gonna rinse and repeat that a bunch of times and then drive and let it cool down. Did some medium brake effort applications, probably about 10 of them. Drove for a couple minutes here, let it cool down a bit. Now I'm gonna start doing probably 10 heavy applications without the ABS kicking on, going from 60 miles an hour down to about 20 miles an hour. Driving a mile in between and then doing it again, and then I'm gonna go for another 10-15 minute drive without hitting the brakes, and then should be done. So just got back from bedding in the brakes on the car. Just did 10 medium brake applications. Let it cool down, drove for 5 minutes, and then I did 10 heavy brake applications and went about a minute in between each application. It's kind of a long process, but got a good heat into the rotors and the pads. So hopefully they'll work good at the track this weekend. As you can see, everything looks pretty good. There is some brake compound in the rotor now, so should be good to go. So anyhow, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.